The smell of burning plastic still haunts me. It's been 2 years, but I can't forget the night my world ended, or more accurately, the night I learned what my world really was. My name is Martin Hayes, and I'm about to tell you about the betrayal that nearly killed me twice. First by fire, then by the 2 women I trusted most. It started at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I just checked my phone before the smoke alarm screamed. Our townhouse in southwest Atlanta was on fire, and I could hear the flames crackling downstairs like some hungry beast. My wife Isabella was screaming from the hallway. "Martin! Martin, get out!" Then I heard her mother Valeria yelling too. "Come on, baby, we gotta go." I tried to reach the door, but something exploded in the kitchen, probably the gas line. The blast threw me backward, and I hit the bedroom wall hard. My vision went black for a second, and when I came to, my left arm was on fire. Actually on fire. I rolled, trying to smother the flames, screaming for Isabella. But all I heard was silence. Then footsteps running away. They left me. I managed to crawl toward the window, my skin melting, my lungs filling with smoke. The last thing I remember before passing out was thinking, "Where's Isabella?" The firefighters found me 3 minutes before the entire second floor collapsed. They told me later I'd been declared dead twice in the ambulance. But I survived. Barely. Waking up in the burn unit was like being born into hell. Everything hurt. Not the kind of hurt you feel when you stub your toe or pull a muscle. This was different. This was pain that lived in every cell, every nerve ending screaming simultaneously. 43% of my body was covered in 2nd and 3rd degree burns. My left arm from shoulder to fingertips. My chest. Parts of my face and neck. The nurses were angels, particularly this older black woman named Rita who worked nights. "You're a fighter, Mr. Hayes," she'd say, changing my bandages while I bit down on a rubber guard to keep from breaking my teeth. "Your body wants to give up, but your spirit won't let it." I kept asking about Isabella. Every doctor, every nurse, every visitor, which there weren't many of. "Has my wife called? Has she come by?" They'd give me these pitying looks and change the subject. After the first week, I stopped asking. My boy Troy came by on day 10. We'd been friends since high school, played ball together at Morehouse. He walked in, saw me, and I watched him try not to cry. "Yo, Mark," he said, his voice cracking. "Man, I'm so sorry. Where's Isabella?" I croaked through my damaged throat. Troy looked at the floor. She said the hospital environment was too traumatic for her. Her mom said the same thing. Too traumatic for her? I was the one wrapped in gauze like a mummy, my skin grafted from my thighs to my arms. But she couldn't handle visiting? "They okay though?" I asked, because that's who I was. Even burning, I worried about them. Troy's jaw tightened. "Yeah. They're fine, Martin. Real fine." The surgeries blurred together. 8 of them in the first 3 months. Each time they put me under, I'd pray I wouldn't wake up. Not because of the pain, though that was unbearable, but because of the loneliness. The soul-crushing, devastating loneliness of being abandoned by the person who promised to love you in sickness and in health. Other patients had visitors. Families crowded around beds, holding hands, praying together. I had Troy, who came twice a week when he could get off work. And Rita, who wasn't even supposed to sit with patients during her rounds, but did anyway. "Your wife called the hospital," Rita told me during one of our late-night talks in month 4. "She asked about your status." My heart jumped. When? What did she say? Is she coming? Rita's face told me everything. She asked if you were still alive. When we confirmed, she asked when you'd be released. She paused, choosing her words carefully. She didn't ask how you were doing, Martin. She asked when you'd be released. Something cold settled in my stomach. "That's weird, right?" "That's suspicious," Rita corrected. "I've been a nurse for 27 years. I've seen a lot of things. And honey, something about that call didn't sit right with me." I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Isabella was planning a surprise. Maybe she was working with the insurance company to get our house rebuilt. Maybe she was just traumatized and dealing with it in her own way. Maybe I was the problem for expecting her to show up while I was half dead and disfigured. But deep down, something was screaming at me. Something was very wrong. Month 5 brought Detective Josie Keegan into my life. She was investigating the fire, which they'd initially ruled as accidental, faulty wiring in the kitchen. But some inconsistencies had emerged, and she had questions. "Mr. Hayes, can you walk me through that night again?" She sat beside my bed with a notebook, her expression professional but kind. I told her everything I remembered. The smoke alarm. Isabella screaming. The explosion. The footsteps running away. "You're certain you heard footsteps leaving?" she asked, underlining something in her notes. "Positive. I thought Isabella was coming back for me, but..." I swallowed hard. She didn't. "Mr. Hayes, did your wife know where you kept important documents? Life insurance policies, for instance?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Yeah. I kept everything in a fireproof safe in our bedroom closet." "Why?" Detective Keegan studied me carefully. "That safe was found open, Mr. Hayes. Empty. And it was opened before the fire department arrived. The digital logs show it was accessed at 2:52 a.m., 5 minutes after the first 911 call, which your wife made from outside the house at 2:47. My mind reeled. She'd opened the safe. During the fire? "There's something else," Keegan continued. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Hurst, gave a statement. She saw your wife and mother-in-law leaving the house. She said they were carrying bags. Not emergency grab-and-go bags, Mr. Hayes. Luggage." I couldn't breathe. Well, I could barely breathe anyway with my damaged lungs, but this was different. This was drowning. "You're saying they planned this?" "I'm saying the investigation is ongoing," Keegan replied carefully. "But I need you to think, did anything unusual happen before the fire? An arguments? Financial problems? Changes in behavior?" That question unlocked a flood of memories I'd been suppressing. Lying in that hospital bed, I started connecting dots I'd been too trusting, or too stupid, to see before. 3 months before the fire, I'd gotten a promotion. I was now senior project manager at Henderson Construction, pulling in $87,000 a year. Good money, especially with the bonuses. I'd also increased my life insurance policy to $750,000 on Isabella's suggestion. "We should be responsible," she'd said, snuggled against me on the couch. "Make sure we're protected, baby." Her mother Valeria had moved in with us 6 months before the fire. "Just temporarily," Isabella promised, "until she gets back on her feet." But Valeria's temp job never materialized into anything permanent. She'd sit on our couch watching TV while I worked 10-hour days, then come home to cook dinner because Isabella was too stressed from her part-time job at the boutique. I remembered coming home early one day, about 2 months before the fire. Valeria and Isabella were in the kitchen, voices low. When I walked in, they stopped talking immediately. Isabella's laptop was open to something, but she closed it quickly. "Hey, baby. You're home early. Too bright. Too cheerful. What were y'all talking about?" I'd asked, grabbing a water from the fridge. "Nothing important. Just girl talk." Valeria had smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'd shrugged it off. Now, lying in that hospital bed, I realized they'd been planning something. "Planning this. Detective Keegan," I said when she visited again, "I need you to check something. My life insurance policy, has anyone filed a claim?" Her expression answered before her words did. "Mr. Hayes, I'm not supposed to discuss ongoing financial investigations, but, yes. A claim was filed 3 weeks after the fire. The insurance company is processing it now." 3 weeks. While I was still in critical condition, fighting for my life. Troy brought his laptop on his next visit. "You need to see this, bro. I'm sorry, but you need to know." He pulled up Facebook. Isabella's page. Her profile picture had changed, It was her and Valeria, both smiling, holding drinks at what looked like a resort. The caption read, "New beginnings. Sometimes life gives you a second chance. #blessed #fresh start." The post was dated 2 months after the fire. While I was still doing physical therapy to regain function in my left hand. Troy scrolled down. More pictures. Isabella with a new hairstyle, new clothes, new everything. Valeria in designer sunglasses. Neither of them looked like women grieving a husband and son-in-law who'd nearly died. In the comments, someone had asked, "How's Martin doing?" Isabella's reply, "Thank you for your prayers. It's been a difficult journey, but we're taking things day by day." She'd made it sound like she was by my side. Like she was the supportive wife enduring trauma. 53 people had liked her comment. 11 had left hearts. "There's more," Troy said quietly. He opened Instagram. A new account, @SecondChanceSisters. It was Isabella and Valeria, documenting their healing journey after the tragic fire that almost took everything. There were posts about gratitude, resilience, and moving forward. Sponsored posts for detox teas and waist trainers. They were making money off my near death. "Troy," I whispered, my voice shaking with rage I didn't know I could feel. "When I get out of here, I need your help. Whatever you need, brother. Whatever you need." The day I was discharged was January 15th. 6 months and 8 days after the fire. I'd lost 47 pounds. My left arm had limited mobility. My face, while mostly healed thanks to skillful grafts, bore scars that I'd carry forever. But I was alive. And I was furious. Rita hugged me goodbye, slipping a piece of paper into my hand. "That's my personal number. You call me if you need anything. You hear me? Anything." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. She'd been more family to me than my actual family. Troy picked me up in his Nissan, and we drove not to the house, which I learned had been sold 3 months prior, but to his apartment in East Point. "You're staying with me until we figure this out," he said firmly. Detective Keegan met us there within an hour. She had news. "Mr. Hayes, the insurance investigation revealed some interesting information. Your wife filed the claim on August 2nd, citing your death in the fire. When the company asked for a death certificate, she provided hospital documentation showing you'd been declared deceased twice in the ambulance. Technically true, but misleading. She claimed your injuries were so severe that you were on life support with no chance of recovery, and that the family had decided to let you go peacefully." I stared at her. But I was conscious. I was talking to doctors. She never checked. The insurance company, following standard procedure for large claims, sent an investigator to the hospital. That's when they discovered you were not only alive but recovering. They flagged the claim as potential fraud. "Where's the money now?" Troy asked. "Frozen. But here's where it gets complicated. She did receive an initial payment of $75,000, 10% released for immediate expenses. That money is gone. Spent. Gone. They'd spent $75,000 in 6 months while I learned to walk again. What are my options?" I asked. Detective Keegan pulled out more papers. "Criminally, we're building a case for insurance fraud and potentially attempted murder. Civilly, you can sue for the money spent. But Martin." She leaned forward. "I need to tell you something off the record. Your neighbor, Mrs. Hurst? She's willing to testify that she heard arguing the night of the fire. Loud arguing. And she saw your mother-in-law tampering with something near your gas line 2 days before. The room spun. They tried to kill me. We're investigating. But I wanted you to know what we're looking at." Finding Isabella wasn't hard. Troy did some digging. Turns out she and Valeria had rented a luxury apartment in Buckhead, the kind of place that cost $3,200 a month. How they planned to sustain that without the full insurance payout, I couldn't figure. Maybe they were that confident they'd get away with it. I decided to pay them a visit. Troy wanted to come, but I needed to do this alone. I needed to look Isabella in the eye and understand how the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd planned a future with, could leave me to burn. I knocked on the door at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. I heard movement inside, then the peephole darkened. Silence. Long, heavy silence. I know you're in there, Isabella. Open the door. More silence. Then Valeria's voice, muffled, you need to leave. We'll call the police. I almost laughed. Call them. Please. I'm sure Detective Keegan would love to chat. The door opened a crack, the chain still on. Isabella's face appeared, and I watched her eyes go wide. She'd expected the Martin she'd left, the confident, healthy man who'd carried her over the threshold of our first home. Instead, she got this scarred, angry stranger. Martin, she breathed. Oh my God, you're okay. No thanks to you. My voice was cold, controlled. Let me in. We need to talk. This isn't a good time. Let me in. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't have to. Something in my tone made her hands shake as she undid the chain. The apartment was exactly what $3,200 a month bought in Buckhead. Hardwood floors, granite counters, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the skyline. I saw new furniture. A 65-inch TV. Designer throw pillows that cost more than my hospital slippers. Valeria stood in the living room, arms crossed. You shouldn't be here. Funny, I said, walking slowly around the space. I was thinking the same thing about you. About both of you. You shouldn't be here. You should be in jail. Isabella's hands fluttered nervously. Martin, you don't understand. Then explain it to me. I sat on their expensive couch, uninvited. Explain how you ran out of our burning house without checking if I was alive. Explain how you opened our safe during the fire to grab important documents but left me to die. Explain how you filed for my life insurance 3 weeks later while I was still in the ICU. Please, Isabella, help me understand. She looked at her mother. Valeria's face had gone hard, calculating. I saw then what I'd missed all along. Valeria was the architect. Isabella was just the willing accomplice. It was an accident, Isabella started, her voice small. The fire. Don't. Valeria cut her off sharply. Don't say anything without a lawyer. Too late for that, I said, pulling out my phone. Because I'm recording this. And Detective Keegan is very interested in what you have to say. I was bluffing about recording. I knew it wouldn't be admissible anyway, but the panic on their faces told me everything. You can't prove anything, Valeria snarled, her mask finally slipping. The fire department ruled it accidental. You survived. That's a blessing. But you can't come in here accusing us of crimes just because you're bitter about your scars. Mrs. Hurst saw you, I said quietly. 2 days before the fire. Near our gas line. Valeria went pale. And the insurance company? They're very curious about how you knew I was dead when the hospital never declared it. How you filed those papers claiming I was brain dead when I was actually in physical therapy learning to use my hand again. Isabella started crying. Real tears this time, but not for me, for herself. Mama said it would work. She said we'd be set. She said you'd never know because you'd be dead, I finished. Say it, Isabella. Because I was supposed to be dead. Isabella collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Valeria shot her a look of pure disgust. Shut up, Isabella. You're making it worse. But Isabella was beyond listening. The guilt, the fear, whatever shred of conscience she had left, it all came pouring out. I didn't want to. Mama, tell him I didn't want to. I said shut you p. Valeria lunged for her daughter, but I stood, blocking her path. This close, I could see the cold calculation in her eyes. No remorse. No fear. Just anger that her plan had failed. You don't touch her, I said softly. Not while I'm here. Or what? Valeria sneered. You'll hit a woman? Go ahead. Give me something to actually call the cops about. I don't need to hit you. The police are already building their case. Insurance fraud, attempted murder. You're looking at 20 years, Valeria. Both of you. Isabella's crying intensified. I didn't try to murder you. I swear, Martin, I didn't know it would go that far. Mama said we'd just stage a break-in, grab the insurance papers, make it look like you were a victim too. But then the fire started earlier than planned, and... Shanice. Valeria roared. Earlier than planned. The words hung in the air like an accusation. They'd planned a fire. Maybe not that night, maybe not that way, but they'd planned it. Why? I asked, my voice breaking despite my anger. We were good, Isabella. We were happy. Why wasn't that enough? She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her face. Because good isn't great, Martin. Because I'm 31 and living in a townhouse driving a used Mazda 3. Because Mama raised me alone after Daddy left, and she deserves better. Because $750,000 could change everything. So you were willing to kill me for it? No. I thought. Mama said we'd just make it look like you died. I didn't know she'd actually. I didn't know she cut the brake line on your truck too. The room went silent. What did you just say? My voice came out strangled. Isabella's eyes went wide, realizing what she'd revealed. Valeria's face turned murderous. My truck, I continued, memories flooding back. 2 weeks before the fire. My brakes failed on I-85. I almost hit a semi. The mechanic said it looked like someone had cut the line, but I thought it was just conspiracy theory. He suggested I file a police report, but I didn't because... I looked at Isabella. Because you convinced me it was just normal wear and tear. You said I was being paranoid. Valeria moved toward the door, but I was faster. I blocked her path, pulling out my phone for real this time. Troy? Yeah, I need you to call Detective Keegan. Tell her to get to Buckhead Plaza Apartments, Unit 427. Tell her Valeria Lawson just confessed to cutting my brake line. I didn't confess to shit. Valeria spat. That stupid girl doesn't know what she's talking about. That stupid girl is your daughter, I said. And she just handed the police their case. Troy stayed on the line while we waited. Isabella kept crying. Valeria paced like a caged animal. I stood by the door, my scarred arm aching from the tension, my heart hammering in my chest. You were supposed to die in the truck accident, Valeria finally said, her voice eerily calm. Quick. Clean. Insurance pays out for accidental death, no questions asked. But you survived. So we had to try again. Mama, stop talking. Isabella begged. Why? Valeria laughed bitterly. It's over anyway. Your weakness already ruined everything. Might as well own it now. She turned to me. You want to know the truth, Martin? You were never good enough for my daughter. Not smart enough, not ambitious enough, not rich enough. You were comfortable being middle class, and comfortable is just another word for mediocre. So you decided to kill me. I said it like a statement, not a question. I decided to give my daughter the life she deserved. Your life insurance was worth more than your life. Simple mathematics. Valeria's eyes were cold, empty. And it would have worked if you weren't so damn hard to kill. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Isabella's crying had evolved into hyperventilating. I'm sorry, Martin. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. I never wanted you to get hurt. But you let it happen, I said quietly. That's the part one can't get past, Isabella. You heard me screaming in that fire. You heard me calling your name. And you ran. You saved yourself and left me to burn. I was scared. I was dying. The words exploded out of me, all the rage and pain and betrayal of the last 6 months erupting at once. I was dying, and you were opening a safe to steal my insurance papers. Do you understand what that did to me? Do you understand what it's like to wake up every day for 6 months wondering why the person you loved didn't love you enough to try? The door burst open. Police flooded in, Detective Keegan, 2 uniformed officers, and another detective I didn't recognize. Valeria Lawson, Isabella Hayes, you're under arrest for insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted murder. Watching them get handcuffed was surreal. Isabella went quietly, still crying. Valeria fought, screaming about lawyers and rights and false accusations. But the evidence was damning. The recorded conversation on Troy's phone, he'd started recording the moment I asked him to call Keegan. Isabella's confession. The forensic evidence from the fire and my truck. Detective Keegan approached me as they led the women out. "You okay, Mr. Hayes?" "No," I admitted. "But I will be." She nodded. "We'll need your full statement." "But Martin, you did good. You gave them enough rope, and they hanged themselves with it." I watched through the window as they loaded Isabella and Valeria into separate patrol cars. Isabella looked up one last time, her eyes meeting mine. I saw regret there, maybe even real remorse. But it was too late. 6 months too late. The trial took 8 months. Valeria got 23 years for attempted murder, conspiracy, insurance fraud, and tampering with evidence. Isabella took a plea deal, 15 years with possibility of parole after 10. She testified against her mother, finally showing some spine, though it didn't absolve her of what she'd done. The insurance company unfroze my policy and issued the full $750,000, minus the $75,000 they'd spent. I used part of it to pay Troy back for everything: rent, food, lawyer fees, everything. I donated $100,000 to the burn unit that saved my life, specifically requesting it go toward patient care and support services for families. Rita cried when I told her. I bought a small house in Decatur. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. The neighborhood is quiet. People wave when they see me jogging. Yes, jogging. Physical therapy and determination got me there. My scars are still visible, still draw stares sometimes, but I've learned they tell a story of survival, not defeat. Troy helped me start a non-profit organization, Phoenix House, supporting burn victims and their families. We provide financial assistance, counseling, and community resources. Because no one should go through what I did alone. I ran into Mrs. Hurst at the grocery store last month. She hugged me, tears in her eyes. "I'm so glad you made it, baby. So glad." "Thank you for speaking up," I told her. "You saved my life twice, once by calling 911, and once by telling the truth." Some nights I still dream about the fire. I wake up smelling smoke that isn't there, feeling flames that have long since been extinguished. But more often now, I dream about the future. About the life I'm building from the ashes of the one that tried to destroy me. Isabella writes me sometimes from prison. I don't open the letters. Valeria will die behind bars, and I feel nothing about that except relief that she can't hurt anyone else. As for me, I'm dating someone new. Angela works at the hospital. She's a physical therapist. She knows my scars, my story, my trauma. And she loves me anyway. We're taking it slow, building trust. Building something real. I survived a fire, a betrayal, and 6 months alone in hell. If that doesn't kill you, nothing will. And if you can stand in the ashes of everything you thought your life was and choose to rebuild, you've already won.